Is the Deputy Attorney General auditioning for Saturday Night Live or something? J Pork's podcast. Exclusively on East Coast Radio. Mile journey begins with one step. Progressives took that step on November 6th. The journey's not over, but we took a step in the right direction.
If you don't know what Staten Island is, it's like New York's abortion that lived.
Did you see New York 11 elected a Democrat? New York 11 is Staten Island, the most Trumpian place in New York City. Elected a Democrat. Don't try to tell me it wasn't a wave. Robert Mueller isn't the only person investigating Trump now. We have the House Intel Committee is now chaired by Adam Schiff, and they have subpoena power. And he will use it. And he will get to the bottom of this, like he's been trying to do for the last 2 years, and Devin Nunes has been stymieing him. Devin Nunes is no longer the chairman. The midnight runs to the White House are over. I made a promise to the listeners of East Coast Radio that if the Democrats did not mess up November, that if November 6th went our way, that we would have a little fun here on East Coast Radio. And if you stay tuned, I promise you this. Along with our fighting fascism and trying to save democracy, we will have a little fun. Because we earned it. Keep it locked to East Coast Radio. Remember, we got Dies in Your House at the end of the week. We got the J Porks podcast at the beginning of the week. Every week, East Coast Radio for the least heard voices. Get us on Patreon, patreon.com/JPorks, and follow us on Twitter at East Coast Radio. Let's punch fascism in the face, one podcast at a time.
If you don't know what Staten Island is, it's like New York's abortion that lived. Representing Staten Island. Staten Island was no joke.
He's fly and is also known as a buster. Always talking about what he wants and just sits on his broke ass. So, no, I don't want your number, no. I don't want to give you mine, and no. I don't want to meet you nowhere, no. Don't want none of your time, and no. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. Hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me. Hanging up the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at
Hey yo! What is the word, peeps? Welcome back into another action-packed edition of the J Porks podcast. I am J Porks. With me, as always, on the other side of the glass, making sure this is a well-oiled podcast machine every week, is the ever-popular Nobody. That's Weezer with No Scrubs. From the Teal album. One of these days, we'll talk about music on the podcast. And one of these days, I will tell you about how the people that hate Weezer take life too seriously. And it's music. And Weezer are not elected officials. So, like, if they're doing a song or something that you don't like, you should just, keep that to yourself and stop it. It's not like they're Pearl Jam where people think they're good. Alright. Got a couple of things to get to today. Probably go over an hour. Here's what I have to say. There's a big Jeff Bezos, AMI, collusion section of this podcast coming up in a few moments, about 10-15 minutes from now. Now, the non-prosecution agreement that AMI entered with prosecutors. I keep calling it a prosecution agreement. Obviously, nobody agrees to be prosecuted, so just keep in mind that when I get to that part and you keep hearing me say prosecution agreement, that's because it's early and I had not finished my first cup of coffee yet. Also, if you guys didn't hear Friday's episode of Dies in Your House, I suggest you guys go check it out, because a lot of people, they just know me as I have like 450 Twitter followers or something. So most of you people might know me just from being a, bleeding heart liberal on the internet. But I am, to give you a little glance into my, regular life, we have some podcasts that I tell you to check out. Like, all right, so they found a dead body buried in the woods about 100 yards from a house. And this neighborhood where I live is turning into, like, not turning into anything. It's turning into a basin of white privilege is what it is. And we might need to do another episode on that body found in the woods just so we can straighten this up, because a lot of people that live in Aspen Knolls on the south shore of Staten Island are under the impression that they live in a bad neighborhood. And I would ask those people, have you ever actually been to the hood? Like the actual hood? No. That's white privilege. I'm definitely gonna need another podcast for that. So keep it locked. Stay tuned to East Coast Radio. Dies in Your House. Probably gonna hit that again. But today, again, I mentioned we're gonna talk about the Bezos power move. We're gonna talk about Virginia. Oh my God. Oh man, Virginia. But let me just quickly. I put on Facebook the other day that I was recording an episode of Dies in Your House about what's going on, the local news story and my development in my condo complex, as they're calling it on the news. I guess it's a condo complex now. And I made sure that in the Facebook post I was like, guys, it's a non-politics post, a non-politics podcast, so maybe you'll listen. I jokingly said that, and the most people that have ever liked a post that had to do with my podcast liked it. That makes me sad for America. That doesn't make me excited. And you people, I'm not saying that people need to be political science majors for the rest of their lives, but right now it's a time for all of us to step up. And I promise you, if there was a Democrat in office or a normal Republican in office, I would be talking less about this on my podcast. But unlike you, I don't know how many of you are out there, but me personally, most of my family was killed in the Holocaust. So when I see even something that resembles fascism,
the noun fascism is usually defined as a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, etc., and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism.
See, so when I see things that resemble rising fascism, I don't sit back and take it lightly and, read funny memes about it. I use my weapons. I use my voice. That's my weapon. This is my platform, my podcast. And I've been told that I have some sultry tones. So I am here to tell you about the injustices that are going on in our government. It's abnormal injustices. Normally the government is just screwing us regularly. Not this. This is different. And we need to stop it before it rises. For instance, the Deputy Attorney General sat and answered questions before a congressional committee the other day. And this guy, Matthew Whitaker, the guy that vouched for the masculine toilet, was over there making jokes Jerry Nadler's asking him a question, and he's like, sorry, sir, I mean, it says run out. Let's go how we got here. They told Matthew Whitaker, you're coming in to answer questions. He said, okay. They said, if you don't come in, we're going to subpoena you. So, the Justice Department came out. You know, Matthew Whitaker leads the Justice Department. The Justice Department came out with a statement that said, Matthew Whitaker will not appear if subpoenaed. Which makes no sense. Because you're basically saying, listen, Whitaker's going to come testify, but he's not going to answer any questions that he doesn't want to answer, and you're not going to subpoena him, and that's that. Unacceptable to me. And I want answers. And I'm sorry. I am no conspiracy theorist, but I want to know why. I want to know to the extent of which Trump put this asshole in charge of the Justice Department to curb things in the Mueller probe, or to give Trump insight as to what's going on in the Southern District of New York investigation with Michael Cohen and all that stuff, and campaign finance. He wouldn't answer any questions about conversations with Trump. Now, he said, people say, oh, he invoked an executive privilege. We went through this already. I even forgot who was testifying, but this is like 2 years ago, probably. Year and a half ago, at least. Somebody was testifying, and they were invoking executive privilege. The executive invokes the executive privilege. Like, Whitaker can't invoke it. Trump has to invoke it. He's the executive. Not Whitaker. Whitaker's the employee. Several members of the Democratic House who was on the committee holding up pictures, holding up little miniature constitutions. Because, you know, there are some politicians, there are some people who don't care about the Constitution, who have been put in charge of our country. And the Oversight Committee is here to do just that. Oversight. Now, there's a couple of things I don't like. There's a lot of people who go on social media and they say things like, oh, well, people who become political analysts overnight, they don't know shit about shit. Look at Venezuela. Dude, let's clean up our own house first, okay? Politically, government-wise, we gotta clean up our own thing, our own mess going on over here. Then I'll look into Venezuela and why or why not we shouldn't be there, and whatever the case may be, the geopolitics of it all. But right now, I gotta worry about the geopolitics of America because we have fascism rising. Hakeem Jeffries from New York. I love this guy. He's like, how the hell did you get in charge of the Justice Department? How? Why? No qualifications whatsoever. He's over there. Every question that gets asked, he's pausing, taking time. And he actually said at one point, I'm here as a privilege. I'm here voluntarily. No, you're really not. They wanted to subpoena you, but you told your henchmen to say, no, I'm not coming if you subpoena me. Is this what it's going to be? Like, why are Republicans allowed to have 11-hour hearings on Benghazi, but it's something that's not real, or 11-hour hearings on emails, things that don't matter, and that's okay, but it's not okay for Democrats to exercise a little bit of oversight on things that really need to be looked at. That's what constituents elected Democrats for, to have oversight, to not just see injustices happening and allow them to happen and then just say, we'll worry about the election. And people are saying, oh, all these Democrats are looking to run for higher office, so they're putting on a show. Again, I will point you to all the Republican-led committees on Benghazi and emails and things that, you know, people would say that they were being overzealous, but their constituents elected them to do that. And I don't care what the moderate Democrat talking head says on TV. Oh, well, the Democrats have to toe a fine line between, you know, looking like they're over. Fuck that. No, we're here. The reason why we are here, the reason why these people are elected is to be overzealous, to uncover every rock. This is new politics. We're shaking it like a bad girl up in Harlem. That's what this is. We are starting anew. That we are in the information age. Everybody can find any information they need to find. And we're not going to have committees up there pretending like they don't know what Google is. Matthew Whitaker has no business being the Deputy Attorney General. No business. He's unqualified, and it's an illegal appointment. He needs to be confirmed. He's not confirmed. He was never confirmed by any Senate committees. So, Democrats have questions. America has questions. We want Robert Mueller to finish his investigation. We want Robert Mueller to let us know what he found. And then we want Congress to do what is right and just, and that is impeach the MF. That's what we have to do. It's not about what the poll numbers say. It's not about, you know, oh, well, is it good politics to impeach? He needs to be impeached. He is a danger to the country, to all Americans, and to the world. Full stop. High crimes and misdemeanors have been committed. Full stop. Obstruction of justice committed. Full stop. Again, we're going to talk about, when I get into Virginia, we're going to talk about, like, elected officials are held to a higher standard. Donald freaking Trump? Nah. That can't be a thing. So this idea that, you know, people want to... The idea that he'd get impeached because people don't like him. People don't like you, but that's not why you'll get impeached. You'll get impeached because of high crimes, because of misdemeanors, because of obstruction of justice, and because of abuse of power. Not to mention how cozy you are with dictators from foreign enemies. Russia, North Korea, Saudi Arabia. Do you know that the White House will not approve the Senate report on Khashoggi? The White House is just ignoring the fact that a journalist in America was killed. They're just going to ignore that fact. Because Saudi Arabia, I don't know if you know this, but even though Trump and the Republicans have a deep disdain for all things brown, they somehow love that Saudi Arabian green money. A little Saudi angle coming up in the Bezos section of the podcast when we come back after this. The Southern District of New York has a prosecution agreement with David Pecker, who is the chairman of AMI Media, American Media Incorporated, which runs the National Enquirer. Okay. They have a prosecution agreement, which means it says that they're not allowed to break the law for 3 years. Well, according to Amazon's Jeff Bezos, extortion, blackmail, these things comprise of law. And they're being broken, and he's here to tell us about it. For a detailed explanation of what exactly is going on in this Jeff Bezos saga, we will turn to the Observer and John Schindler. You can follow him at 20 Committee. I I reference him on the thread count a lot. Definitely not the same political party as me, but definitely American. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, not cool with foreign entities affecting America. So let's go into, this was from the 8th. Inside the spy scandal at the heart of Jeff Bezos's war with the National Enquirer. I'm just going to say Bezos, even though it's probably Bezos, because that's easier to pronounce, and I don't want to sound like a tool. So, getting into it, and we will get the thread count background music going, because why not? It's a party. Ain't no party like a David Pecker party, because a David Pecker party keeps trying to extort you. And let's get into it. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos rocked American politics yesterday by exposing an effort by his nemesis, American Media Incorporated, publisher of the National Enquirer, to blackmail the multi-billionaire mogul. By publicly taking on the country's most notorious scandal sheet, Bezos opened the door to an espionage scandal that threatens to rock the nation's capital and beyond. Posting salacious accusations of criminality on the web is no routine matter, especially when it's the world's wealthiest man doing it. But that's just what Bezos did by explaining that AMI attempted to coerce him into stopping his investigation into the National Enquirer's activities. This sordid saga burst into public view last month when the National Enquirer published a salacious account of Bezos' extramarital affair, complete with images of private text messages of an amorous nature between the Amazon CEO and his mistress. Bezos and his wife of 25 years soon announced their intent to divorce. Not surprisingly, Bezos wanted to know how AMI got a hold of his private messages. And when you're worth upwards of $130 billion, you can hire top-notch investigators. That's when things got interesting. The National Enquirer isn't accustomed to being in the hot seat when it comes to having secrets exposed, since their business model is based on being the exposer, not the one being the exposed. AMI, whose acquaintance with journalistic ethics can charitably be termed fleeting, has secrets to hide in this high-profile case. I want to say that again. That's just such a great sentence. AMI, whose acquaintance with journalistic ethics can charitably be termed fleeting. Damn. That was made clear by emails which Bezos cut and paste into his blog post, an exchange this week between AMI's lawyers and those representing the Amazon CEO. Briefly, AMI demanded that the Washington Post, owned by Bezos, not run a planned story revealing how the National Enquirer obtained Bezos' private messages. This demand, including an alarmingly detailed list of personal photos sent by Bezos to his mistress, now in AMI's possession, including images that would fall under the dick pic descriptor that's in the actual article. That didn't work, so AMI returned fire with an ominous warning. Any further dissemination of these false, vicious, speculative, and unsubstantiated statements is done at your client's peril. Leaving it to the attorneys to decide whether that threat rises to the level of criminal conduct, such a statement surely constitutes Such a statement surely constitutes blackmail and understood by the public. Certainly, none of AMI's behavior here resembles legitimate journalism. Then, Bezos struck back and wrote up his blog post. None of which answers the question of how AMI obtained Bezos' private electronic communications, dick pics and all, in the first place. Here, politics enters in the dramatic and indelible matter. Trump stands in the background of this scandal, perhaps more than the mere outline. David Pecker, AMI's boss, is a longtime friend of Trump, who for years has employed his seedy media empire to protect Trump, specifically using catch and kill to buy off stories and silence those, especially women, seeking to expose Trump's behavior. Trump hates Bezos and has repeatedly criticized the Mongol and his newspaper on Twitter in vehement terms. His tweet on the heels of the National Enquirer publishing Bezos' text last month is vintage Trump, mocking and threatening in equal measure. So sorry to hear about the news about Jeff Bezos being taken down by a competitor whose reporting, I understand, is far more accurate than the reporting in his lobbyist newspaper, the Amazon Washington Post. Hopefully the paper will soon be placed in better and more responsible hands. The timing and content of this, quote, modern presidential tweet raises many questions now. A hint where this scandal is headed appeared last night when a Post reporter revealed on MSNBC that Gavin de Becker, the security guru the security guru to the stars whom Bezos hired to look into AMI, quote, told us he does not believe that Jeff Bezos' phone was hacked. He thinks it's possible that a government entity might have gotten a hold of his text messages. Let's unpack this important claim. In the current age, when Team Trump immediately points fingers at the alleged deep state as the secret evil force behind everything they dislike, we need to assess how realistic de Becker's assertion is. If any state entity is spying on Jeff Bezos and leaking his purloined communications to third parties in the media, that's legitimately alarming for privacy and personal liberty in America. Because if they can do that to the richest guy on earth, they can do that to anybody. Suspicion inevitably falls on the National Security Agency. But that appears highly unlikely. In the first place, the NSA could only monitor Bezos' private communications if they got federal judges to issue warrant under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, which is granted solely in cases involving foreign espionage or terrorism, which seem like things the Amazon CEO is awfully unlikely to be involved in. Moreover, the agency shreds intercepted personal chats without intelligence value, while any FISA reports are exceptionally closely guarded by the NSA. What about the FBI? That too seems far-fetched. It's difficult to imagine that when you've made over $100 billion legitimately, you would need to resort to crime to make more. And that's the only way the Bureau gets permission to tap your communications. Plus, the FBI is no more likely than the NSA to leak classified intercepts to the media, especially the scandal mongers like AMI. It cannot be doubted certain that Trump White House staffers would leak such salacious messages to Pecker's minions in a New York minute. But it can be ruled out by anybody that they got them from anybody in U.S. intelligence community. Not to mention, per Trumpist mythology, the deep state is their mortal enemy, not their partner in outing the liberal media so the president so loathes. Of course, de Becker's assessment does not specify whose government entity was behind all this. Longtime readers of this column know that technically savvy foreign intelligence services certainly have the capability to spy on Americans, and then some of them are active inside of the United States. The list of first-rate spy services that are known to target Americans, which are operating here, is led by Russia, China, and Israel. Moscow's close and mysterious relationship with Trump is no secret to readers of this column, so Russian covert involvement needs to be seriously considered here. Amazon has large-scale ambitions in China, and perhaps those led to concerns in Beijing, which conducts aggressive espionage operations inside the U.S. also. Israel has close connections to Team Trump, including questionable ties between members of Trump's inner circle and individuals known to have a tight relationship with Israeli intelligence. Another suspect is Saudi Arabia, which incurred the wrath of the Washington Post by murdering and dismembering their columnist Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul last October. Bezos referred to that awful crime in his blog post, including the line, "Pecker and his company have also been investigated for various actions they've taken on behalf of the Saudi government," explaining that AMI is seeking Saudi funding. Bezos added, "Several days ago, an AMI leader advised us that Mr. Pecker is apoplectic about our investigation. For reasons still to be better understood, the Saudi angle seems to have hit a particularly sensitive nerve." Amazon CEO is hinting is more than hinting that Saudi Arabia is mixed up in AMI's activities in a nefarious way. Something which Pecker is desperate to obscure. If Saudi intelligence possesses the ability to intercept text messages inside the United States, that might be the key to the mystery. Here the kingdom's close security relationship with Israel perhaps provides a clue. Israeli security firms sell cutting-edge espionage software and intercept gear to countries all over the world, Saudi Arabia included. In 2017, the Israeli firm NSO Group sold Rydia a $55 million spy program termed Pegasus, which hacks smartphones to obtain their content. This capability was desired by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to spy on his enemies abroad, including, it seems, the doomed Jamal Khashoggi. Since somebody appears to have hacked Jeff Bezos' smartphone and passed its salacious contents to the National Enquirer, the Saudi angle is one which investigators are pursuing with vigor right now. If foreign intelligence services are collaborating with gossip merchants to smear private citizens and silence critics, that's an alarming development which one expert recently termed super doxing, and it is something in which all Americans should be concerned about. And that is John Schindler in The Observer. Again, he is most certainly not a Democrat. So let's unpack that. First of all, let's unpack that AMI entered into a prosecution agreement with the special counsel's office, with the Southern District of New York, with law enforcement. They entered a prosecution agreement. Now, they're going to work with prosecutors, they're going to give up all their stuff, subpoenas, answer them, all that stuff. But the thing that gets me is in the prosecution agreement, there is, I believe it's on page 84. No, I don't know what page it's on. There's a section, just a little throwaway sentence that says, AMI will not, basically, in layman's terms, AMI will agree to not commit crimes for 3 years. If they commit crimes, they will be charged as if there was no prosecution agreement. So, first of all, spoiler, in life, don't commit crimes. Your whole life. It would be best, the best advice I can give anybody listening right now is not to commit crimes. But prosecutors were like, dude, Pecker, all this stuff you do, the buying stories, the intimidation, all that stuff, the covering things up, all of that stuff, you can't do it for 3 years. Just put a pause on it for 3 years. They couldn't do that for 3 weeks, 3 months, let alone 3 years. Now, do you remember the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman? Do you remember that he came to America on a welcoming tour, and he went to Hollywood, and he visited all these places, and there was in the media, not on MSNBC or CNN, but mainstream media. I'm talking Good Morning America and stuff. They were rolling out oh, this is the new, the new Crown Prince. This is the new Saudi Arabia. He's letting women drive. This is the new Saudi. Where did you see Mohammed bin Salman's face? A lot. Last year. Where did you see that? You saw it when you were online for groceries on the cover of the National Enquirer. Now you might ask yourself, Jay, it's American Media Incorporated. It's not Global Media Incorporated. Agree. But the Crown Prince has money, and he's willing to spend it. And here's how you know that people are getting paid in the American government, The White House taking no act. Again, Remember, Jamal Khashoggi lived in America. He was an employee of the Washington Post. He was exercising his First Amendment freedom of freedom of speech. He was exercising his freedom of the press, his rights. He was doing his job, criticizing, speaking truth to power. He wasn't organizing rallies to overthrow a government. He was reporting in a newspaper. MBS didn't like that. Chopped him up. And I don't mean figuratively chopped him up. I mean they really chopped him up with a bone saw. And, the White House, they don't care. Now, why don't they care? Because the Saudi government, maybe the Saudi royal family, I guess it's called, they are not only buying some arms from America, but they got Kushner. He's in their pocket. They got Trump. He's in their pocket. You think when this guy is over, when we finally get this fascist asshole out of office, do you think that there's not going to be Trump hotels in Saudi Arabia? This is all a game. The National Enquirer is a rag mag. The stories they publish, it's like I'm reading a Tom DeLonge blog post. You know what I'm saying? And they entered a prosecution agreement. Everyone's like, oh man, this is bad for Trump. AMI, they got all the secrets. Yeah, but David Pecker's friends with this guy. And David Pecker is another guy like Roger Stone. Looks like he's okay with going to jail for this. You're going to go to prison. And they're going to take your company. And you're not going to get any money for it. And then that Saudi money you're not going to get. Now, Bezos, slick. Now, let me just say this. If I hadn't said it already, it's been a long podcast. I probably said it earlier. I don't know. I think Long Island City is the wrong place for the Amazon plant. I think New York has wider open spaces that will take less people out of their homes and inconvenience less people. They could find another place to do it. Staten Island has plenty of land. I got 26 acres of woods behind my house. And, if we can remove all the human remains that are buried back there, we can put an Amazon plant back there. Anyhow. But Jeff Bezos, here's why I don't mind Jeff Bezos. Because he's the only billionaire that doesn't think he can be president. You know what I'm saying? Every other guy with money. Remember in 2015, Mark Zuckerberg was doing a tour of America? Or 2016? He was doing a listening tour. Swear to God, Mark Zuckerberg was thinking about it. Russian money. Howard Schultz thinking about it. At least Bloomberg was the mayor. At least Bloomberg was the mayor and he politicked for a little while. The mayor for what? What was it, 12 years? Because, term limits. But Jeff Bezos isn't coming out saying, I think that I could run for I'm starting an exploratory committee. He's not. No. He's just a rich guy, wants to be rich, and I'm not going to beef. He's not like Schultz or Bloomberg that call a wealth tax on American. He's keeping his mouth shut. When he got the Washington Post, journalists at the Washington Post, they asked them, does Bezos have a meeting and tell, he's like, no, he just really there was one meeting and it was just business as usual, just letting everyone, it was like a get to know you and just do what you're doing. Bezos was getting extorted. They were like, you better not publish this story about AMI and Saudi money. And Khashoggi, and extorting him. They're like, you better not tell anyone. And he's like, I'll do you one better. The blog post he had on Medium lists all of the material that they have, all of his pics. He doesn't care. Put it all out there. Bulls. I saw his dick pic and he had balls of steel. No, I did not. But seriously, it's a really good move to like, oh, you want to put that out there? Good. Bang. How about this? Now let's talk about the Saudi money. And I do want to talk about the Saudi money. There's a lot of Saudi Arabian influence in this administration that has a tendency to hate brown people. Crazy. Bezos. That's pretty fun. And I don't know what the penalty for AMI is going to be, but people say David Pecker, he has the secrets, he has the lockbox, the vault, all that stuff. Well, technically, the Southern District of New York has something better than the vault. They have Michael Cohen, who is a literal roadmap through all of these crimes. He can walk you through it. Again, it doesn't redeem Michael Cohen. He's still a criminal. He's going to go to jail, and he's going to serve his time. And he's going to write a book. And I got my money on Emily Jane Fox writing the book. But in all seriousness, Michael Cohen could walk the Southern District through all of this. The Southern District of New York has been trying to get these Trump financial crimes for years. Not because they don't like the guy, but because he's a criminal. People, they're after Trump. No, they're not. They're after a criminal. Oh, it's harassment. No, it's not. It's investigation. This is a guy that has been breaking the law since before I was born, okay? Since before the millennial generation. Now, nobody said he killed anybody, but he did want to have 5 black kids given the death penalty for a crime that they turned out to not actually commit. And then when asked about it, he said, well, they would have committed some other crime anyway. This is a career criminal who, because of having money, he's been able to skate his whole life. But you know what? One thing I think millennials have going for them right now? One thing that young people have, like a lot of young people, they understand now. They see wealthy people and they say, as much as I want to be wealthy, if I was that wealthy, I'd give a little back. I'd give more back to the community than they are. I would have, wealth tax is a thing. Young people like that. Because you know what the thing is about young people? We ain't got no money. I know I'm lumping myself in with young people and I'm like an old man by now, but we ain't got no money. And with this administration, with these Republicans who are no longer deficit hawks, with these fiscally irresponsible Republicans that are going to put the deficit over $2 trillion, we ain't never going to have money. There ain't no future. There is no getting rich anymore in America. That's over. Wanna know why? Because 15 people are rich, and that's it. Spoiler, Trump is not one of those people. So, listen. When AOC, when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez gets on TV, yes, she will get mentioned once a week on the J Porks podcast. It's just, we have to mention her, right? When she'll say things about a new Green Deal, or, taxing the wealthy, people are always like, oh man, well, I just did the math. Oh, I just did all that math, and I don't think she understands what she's talking about. Oh my god. Dude, it's a plan. We're gonna tax the wealthy. If you add it up in your head and it doesn't work, we'll get other numbers. We'll do it another way. Same thing with the new Green Deal. Oh my god, it's gonna ruin jobs and it's gonna cost so much money. She doesn't even know what she's talking about. Yeah, she does. She wants us to be, she wants us to make the Earth a more, she wants us to save our planet. That's what she wants to do. All right, she's a little sketchy on the details, but the idea is to save the planet. So if she puts out a bold idea and like say there's 100 green things that, the Green New Deal calls for. Right now, Republicans want, people against that want 0 new things. If we can get 50 new things, then the Earth is a little better tomorrow. Listen, man. This is not the way it was supposed to work. Okay? We're not supposed to have ultra rich people just skating by in life. And you know what? And that's another reason why I don't mind Jeff Bezos. Because he is a super rich guy. He could have just been like, you know what? I'll pay these guys some money to make the story go away. Or he could have said, you know what? He would have paid the first time and not got those, or whatever, in the National Enquirer. But no. He doesn't do that. He says, you know what? Yeah, I'm a rich guy, but you know what? I'm not going to be extorted. Puts the pictures out. Not the actual pictures. He lists the pictures that they have. He doesn't actually, share the pictures. That would be crazy. AMI. The National Enquirer. That's how Trump... That's another, So if AMI is catch and killing stories with Saudi money, you know what that is? That's another avenue of collusion. Remember the thing that doesn't exist? Now we got 2 countries. Insanity. I had to jump on that for a second because that is it's just a phenomenal story. And hopefully the National Enquirer gets to a point where they will no longer be printing. Hey yo, Jay Porks here, recording my own commercials as per usual. But I am here to tell you about going to patreon.com/jporks, and you have the opportunity to help support Least Coast Radio by becoming a Least Coast Radio head. How do you do that, you say? Well, there are 3 different tiers to choose from, where you can find yourself bonus content, bonus features from the Jay Porks podcast, from Dies in Your House, from all things Least Coast Radio. Now, what are those features? Well, they're bonus shows. They're getting shows early. They're getting exclusive artwork mailed to the address of your choosing monthly. You can interact with all the hosts here on Least Coast Radio. You can get shoutouts on the podcast, behind the scenes stuff. That's on Dies in Your House and the Jay Porks podcast. You get them both here on Least Coast Radio. Dies in Your House is usually the primer at the end of the week. The Jay Porks podcast is the long show. What we do at the beginning of the week to get you going, to take in everything that happened. But I need some help. And how you can help Least Coast Radio is by following us on Twitter at Least Coast Radio, going to patreon.com/jporks, becoming a Patreon, becoming a Least Coast Radio head. And, if you don't want to do any of those things, you can smash that subscribe button on iTunes or YouTube. And, you can, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to share the podcast with your friends. So keep it locked to Least Coast Radio for the least heard voices. We're here fighting fascism, saving democracy, but we're also going to have a little fun. Keep it locked. we'll hit one final thing before we get up on out of here. I should have hit this earlier, like last week, but there was no reason for it because you'll see why in a second. First of all, just at this time, I would like to encourage you guys. The biggest story of the week locally for me was they found a dead body buried in the woods about 100 feet from my house. So if you guys go to Least Coast Radio, either on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Patreon, wherever you get your podcasts, if you go to Least Coast Radio, you can listen to the latest episode of Dies in Your House, where I give you a half hour talking about what went down in my community and what white privilege is about. So I just want to, dropping that in there. Everybody that's listening to the J Parks podcast, please do me a favor. There are episodes of Dies in Your House out there that are worth listening, so you should check them out. They're easily digestible. Now, as you know, I am a Democrat. I know, I'm sorry. And as you know, I am not a political analyst. Even though, people on Facebook like to say, oh, my friends who became political analysts overnight don't know shit. Well, people that say that don't know shit and are part of the problem. Because here's the thing. People that say things like that, think that the government did 9/11. I mean, that's just what it is. I have a podcast for democracy. Oh, Jay, that shit doesn't work. Listen, here's the thing. Every member of the House of Representatives is up every 2 years. Don't tell me that it doesn't matter, okay? If there's a representative doing things you don't like, you vote for the other person. You vote for somebody else. You protest. So stop telling me that saving democracy is useless. So what am I supposed to do? Sit here silently and watch my country burn? I think not. I'm a Democrat. I am a liberal. I'm the most liberal person in the world. Not in the world, but I'm really fairly liberal. Virginia. All these guys need to resign. What kind of shit show is this going on in Virginia? Northam? Clown? First of all, which picture is it? Doesn't matter if he's the Ku Klux Klan member or the blackface guy. He's an asshole and he needs to resign. The first night he comes out and he apologizes. The next night he's like, it's not me. It's not what you said last night, dude. And then everyone's like, yes. Because, listen, there are silver linings and everything. And the silver lining would have been that Virginia's lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, who's black, would take over as governor of Virginia and actually be able to be reelected. And he could serve 7 years or whatever as governor of Virginia. That was going to be awesome. But this mofo gets rapey. Now, allegedly, no one's saying that we definitely know that Justin Fairfax committed, rapey things and forced himself on women. He says he didn't. There was one girl that came. Now there's two. These are credible allegations that need to be looked at. So he's got to go too, because again, you are an elected official. There is not, oh, well, he's a human. He made mistakes and he gets a second chance. Yeah, he does. In the private sector, he gets a second chance. No one's saying throw him in jail unless he committed a crime and unless this woman's pressing charges. But, when you're an elected official, you don't get to make a gaffe. Like you work at the factory. Oh, man, I put the boxes in the machine the wrong way. Oh, don't worry about it. It's not that. Elected officials are held to a higher standard. If you fail that standard, you are relieved of your duties. Northam needs to resign. Fairfax needs to resign. The third in line, also a Democrat, came out this week and said, wait for it, in the 80s, I also dressed in blackface. Could I ask what is going on? Trevor Noah said something really funny. Does anybody want to be white anymore? What is up with this? No one dresses in whiteface? What is with the blackface? Again, these are people that got to be elected officials. But yet you're so irresponsible that you had a time in your life where you dressed up as blackface. And, Ralph Northam won that election by calling his opponent a racist. I don't know if his opponent dressed up in blackface. Also, all the opposition researchers are probably like, what is going on? When we missed out? All opposition researchers need to be fired in Virginia right now. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if all of these adulterers and blackfaces resign, if all of these people that made mistakes as children, as kids, as young adults, we're in med school and we're a kid. No, you're not. You're about to make $100,000 next year. You're not a kid. But if we can remove, if all the people who painted their faces black and all the lieutenant governors and people in office that assaulted women, if they all resign, then the governor of Virginia is going to be a Republican. Now listen, I'm not sitting here, it's not Democrat at all costs, Democrats are laying out a zero tolerance policy for the party. And right now it may cost us some things. In the long run, we will win. Because human decency, that's not a talking point. If you just show people that you're decent, you show people you mean well. And if you show people that, this type of behavior is unacceptable, then in the future, we won't have people, as young adults, dressing in blackface. They'll know it's crazy. And they'll know, maybe I want to run for local office in a couple of years. And I don't want this to show up in my yearbook. So the Republican that would take over the governorship, I am fairly certain, won his seat in a coin toss. So here it is in the line of succession. Should they all step aside, the top 3 Democrats, the top 3 people in the state, elected officials who are Democrats, House of Delegates Speaker Kirk Cox, the only Republican in the line of succession, would become the governor, and he's only in that position by complete and total chance. After the lower legislative house's last elections in 2017, its 94th district seat in the Newport News was stuck in a tie. So Democrat Shelley Simmons and Republican incumbent David Yancey put their names in a ceramic bowl. When Yancey's name was drawn, he got the job. USA Today details. That gave the GOP a slim 51-49 majority in the House of Delegates and allowed Cox to be selected as Speaker. That wasn't a coin toss. They picked his name out of a bowl. He's gonna be the governor of Virginia. Because people thought that, what Al Jolson was doing in the 20s wasn't a big deal. Spoiler, it was. Can't be dressing up blackface. And Fairfax, do I even need to say you can't be forcing yourself on women? I mean, I can't anymore. Am I how many people, I don't know, all I can speak for is me. Am I the only one that has no interest in forcing myself on women? How is it enjoyable? I've said this before. It's a mutual, without getting too graphic in this is not a sex education class, but usually 2 people need to enjoy what's going on. Me personally, well, I guess that's why I'm liberal, Because if I walk around with $1,000 and I see somebody with no dollars, I want to give him some dollars, you know? I can't truly enjoy myself unless, you know, like, I can't be happy at the expense of other people. Unless it's Republicans. It's hard for me to be happy at the expense of other people. So, that said, everybody in Virginia needs to resign. Northam, Fairfax, the third guy, and then the governor will be somebody who only got to be speaker because there was a name picked out of a hat. Not a hat, a ceramic bowl, excuse me. There was a name taken out of a ceramic bowl that gave the GOP the majority in the House by one seat. It's 2 seats, but it's one representative. Crazy. Right now, I'm going to go pick my lunch out of a ceramic bowl. Before I get up on out of here, I'm going to give you a list of websites you need to go to help keep me in business here on Least Coast Radio for the least heard voices. I don't have a job. So, like, if you guys go to patreon.com/jporks and think about becoming a Least Coast Radiohead, it might really assist me in eating and survival and all that stuff. And if you guys know any places that are hiring, let me know. I got a call back. I got an email back from Best Buy. They said thanks, but no thanks. Well, there's that. You know, apparently, I can't walk around a store and show people where a video game is, but, you know, whatever. I'm not bitter. But if I stay unemployed much longer, I will contact somebody from the ACLU, because this is... I have a sneaky suspicion that I don't have a job because I'm liberal. I have a sneaky suspicion that because I have a podcast in my spare time that I don't do at work or on the clock or has any effect on any of my employment, has any effect of any of my employers, and I do not bring my political leanings on the clock, I have a feeling that these jobs don't believe that. They just Google me. They see the podcast. They see like, oh, Jamal Khashoggi was murdered. We can't have this guy. Whatever. I'll keep looking. What else we got? ConcertConfessions.com. That's for all your live music news and reviews. For the fans, by the fans. Got some good stuff going on over there. One day I'll get to another concert. Don't know when. I wish I was, like, in a good place in my life, you know? This is probably the worst I've been. What do we got? Go to leastcoastradio.weebly.com. That's gonna be the new website. I have to update it again. But I want to do that as opposed to jporks.com, because I don't... Blogger is whack and GoDaddy is whack. If anybody has a website, I would encourage you to register your domain anywhere besides GoDaddy. You know, I've been a member, I've had a domain registered for them over 10 years. I get no price breaks on buying it for 2 years. I call up support and I tell them what to do. Crazy. And trust me, anybody that knows me knows I ain't support. I am not tech. I had like 100 episodes of a podcast that sounded like... You know what I'm saying? I'm not techie. I could barely fill out a job application online. And of course, for all the latest and breaking news, you can follow at Least Coast Radio on Twitter. Least Coast Radio for the least heard voices. I really want to build the amount of followers on Least Coast Radio, because there's going to be a time... There is going to be a time where I want to not have every other tweet of mine be my podcast. You know, because then people are going to block me and unfollow me and ignore me, because I do 2 podcasts a week. I want to only be tweeting about the podcasts from my personal account at jporks 2 days a week. That's what I want to do. I think that's fair. All right. Till next week, folks. And the next time you hear me, I will have gone to the dentist. Which means I am either going to be way louder, way happier, way more able to talk, or I'm going to be crying as I prep for oral surgery that I don't have insurance for. It's a fucked up world, man. J-Porks Podcast. Exclusively on East Coast Radio. Till next week, folks. Resist. Remove. Don't stop fighting for recreational. Late.